Wolves don't chase after the feeble. They target the strong, the ones they can't dominate. You've been fed lies, led into confusion, and had your spirit worn down over the years, not because you're fragile, but because you're powerful. They've seen something in you that you've yet to recognize. You've been chosen. From the very beginning, the enemy's strategy wasn't brute force. It was to smother your voice, dim your inner light, and cloud your purpose. And he did it with quiet deception, not a roar, but a whisper. That's his method, just like in the garden long ago, sowing doubt, stirring fear, spreading confusion. Why? Because there's a purpose planted deep in you, one that carries heaven's fingerprint. He twists the hearts of those near you, turns blessings into barricades, and sends storms not to break you but to keep you from waking up. Because the moment a child of God rises in the truth of their identity, the grip of darkness cracks. If something in these words feels like it's waking something long asleep inside you, if it stirs a familiar ache in your soul, it's time to respond. Speak up. Leave a comment. Stand with your fellow believers. This isn't just a boost of encouragement. This is your trumpet blast. The fight isn't made of swords and fire. It's confusion, exhaustion, and the enemy's game of distortion. Your mind is where the real war rages, and he's been after it from the start. And each time you hold back, each time you whisper, "I'm not worthy," the enemy gains more ground. The rejection you felt, the loneliness, the trials, they weren't curses. They were signals. You're not hated. You're feared. The Spirit of God in you didn't come through merit or effort. It was a sacred gift placed in you before your first breath. Scripture tells us in Psalm 139 that you were intricately crafted in the hidden place, made with awe and wonder. The world might try to mimic your peace, your radiance, your strength, but it can never reproduce what God Himself placed within you. That's why the enemy scrambles to steal your memory of who you are in Christ. Look back. The betrayals, the disappointments, the cycles that repeat. Every moment you were poised for breakthrough, something tried to pull you under. That wasn't random, it was calculated. A tactic to keep you from stepping into your divine destiny. But here's what you need to hear: you were never meant to fit in. You were set apart to bring light into dark places, to shift the atmosphere. So the real question is, will you wake up now or drift back to sleep while the enemy drains you of everything? Because this moment matters. Stay with me. The 10 things you're about to hear will stir something deep inside you. 1. They recognize you even when you don't. The greatest trick ever pulled by darkness wasn't to appear strong. It was convincing the chosen that they were powerless. Long before you started wondering why life seemed off, why you felt different, why things never came easy, eyes were already on you. They recognized the fire inside you before you even knew it was there. That raw, untouchable spark. Something no one can fake, buy, or steal marked you. And that's why they acted early. They didn't come for you because you were weak. They came because you were powerful, like a predator zeroing in on a lion cub, not out of fear of the cub now, but of the beast it will become. From the moment you took your first breath, forces were moving to silence you, whispering lies before you had words, placing hurdles before you could stand, not to test your strength, but to stop you from realizing it. Ever wondered why the people meant to protect you were the ones who hurt you the most? Why you were surrounded by those who misunderstood you, resented you, clipped your wings before you ever took flight? That's no coincidence. This world doesn't leave that to chance. It's a finely tuned machine built to keep the chosen ones asleep. Look back through time. Every soul marked by greatness had a storm chasing them before they could even speak their names. Jesus faced a death warrant as a newborn. Moses was cast out as a baby. Malcolm X was shadowed by enemies before he ever gained a voice. Different names, same pattern. Early resistance, isolation, confusion. The enemy never waits for you to be ready. They strike when you're still learning how to stand. But pause right there. I know what you're asking. If I'm chosen, why does everything hurt so much? Why does life feel like a constant uphill battle? Why does it feel like I'm always alone? That's exactly what they want you to believe. That your struggle means you've failed. But the truth is the opposite. The struggle is the evidence. Powerful souls don't walk easy roads. Fire purifies gold. Pressure forms diamonds. Storms create warriors. You weren't designed for the shallow end. You were meant to shake the ground, question what's false, carry truth in spaces built on lies. Look around. Tesla died misunderstood. Joan of Arc was condemned for her visions. Muhammad Ali was silenced when his spirit scared the system. Those who carry divine gifts have always made the world uncomfortable because their mere existence calls out every lie it hides behind. That's what you do even if you haven't seen it yet. There's something about you that unsettles others. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your presence is too honest, too real. It makes their masks slip. You shine so brightly that it makes their shadows more obvious. That's why people who once praised you now avoid you. That's why even in familiar places you feel like you never quite belong. No matter how much you try to blend in, you never truly disappear into the crowd. But here's what should shake those who wish to keep you small. You're beginning to awaken, and with each push to keep you down, you rise a little higher. Every jab, every trial, they've only built your endurance, the control they once held over you. It's slipping fast. Because the thing they dreaded most is unfolding. You're opening your eyes to what's real. So let me ask you this. Why do you think life's been coming at you so hard? Why the endless resistance? It's because somewhere deep inside they recognize your potential. They know that if you ever step fully into your strength, there's nothing they can do to hold you back. You won't be fooled, used, drained, or broken anymore. And that scares them more than anything. So what's your move? Will you let others keep pulling your strings? Will you keep ignoring your own power? Or will you finally rise and take hold of the life that was always meant to be yours? Because this battle you're in, it's not going away. It's heating up. And the only thing more threatening than a chosen soul is one who knows exactly who they are. Here's what I know. The moment you fully say yes to your purpose, the world around you will begin to shift. The enemies who surrounded you, they'll scatter. The barriers that blocked your way, they'll fall like sandcastles in a storm. The power they worked so hard to bury will erupt from you like a force they can't contain. They've spent years, maybe your whole life, trying to keep you in the dark. But now the question isn't why they feared you. The question is, what will you do with that fear now? Let it silence you, or use it as fuel, because the ones who tried to crush you are about to witness a rise they never saw coming. 2. The power you carry. It's not something you learned. It's not something you earned in the way others expect. It was placed within you long before your first breath. A lion doesn't ask permission to roar, and you were never meant to wait for approval to shine. And that's what eats at them. They spent their lives chasing something you carry naturally. They read the books, mimic the styles, study the energy, but no matter how hard they try, they can't replicate what flows through your veins. Your light isn't borrowed or bought. It's woven into your very being, written into your soul by hands not of this world. That's why no matter how hard life tries to dim you, some part of you refuses to fade. That's not defiance, it's sacred endurance. That's the mark of someone chosen, and it's the reason they react to you the way they do. Ever wonder why they're always trying to shrink you, why they insult, manipulate, or mock you? Because beneath their words is fear. They've seen something in you that doesn't quite make sense, an inner fire, an unshakable knowing, and it rattles them. Have you noticed how people are drawn to you, and yet resentful at the same time? They love your light, your wisdom, your warmth, until they realize they can't control you. That's when the shift happens. That's when affection turns into resentment, because it was never really love. They loved your gifts, not your soul. They wanted to drink from your well, but never offer water of their own. And when they couldn't siphon your spirit, they turned cold. This is why your life's been filled with battles. Why from the very beginning you felt like a warrior on sacred ground. Because your gifts were never ordinary. Even when you couldn't see it, others did. And those who meant you harm, they saw it early. That's why they tried to confuse you. Break. You keep you small. Just look at history's greats. Jordan didn't have to be taught to be legendary. He was born that way. Tesla didn't earn genius through study. He carried it from birth. No one trained them to be extraordinary. They just were, and for that, they were criticized, isolated, undermined. Think that's a coincidence? It's not. The most powerful souls always carry the heaviest burdens. The universe doesn't challenge the average. So if you've faced betrayal after betrayal, hardship after hardship, and a lifetime of feeling like the odd one out, that's not misfortune. That's a sign. A sign that your presence is too loud to ignore, too different to fit in. The world's been trying to erase you before you fully arrive, but here's what they don't want you to know: once you embrace what's already inside you, you become unstoppable. No one can teach you how to spot a lie just by looking someone in the eye. No class can explain how you feel shifts in energy before a word is spoken. No book can give you the strength to rise from things that should have broken you. Those are not learned traits. They're divine inheritances. And that's why the attacks aimed at you are so specific, so personal, because you don't fit into any mold. You're not here to follow the pattern, you're here to change it. Look around. Notice how people study you like a mystery they can't solve. See how they crave your presence, yet can't handle your power. That's the mark of someone who was never meant to be ordinary. They struggle to understand you. You don't play by their rules. You don't fit inside their tidy little boxes, and that's exactly what makes you special. You were never meant to blend in. They try to quiet your voice, not because it lacks meaning, but because it rings too true. They try to wear you down, not because you're fragile, but because they're afraid of what might happen if you ever stood tall in your own strength. So let me ask you this: how long will you keep letting others shape your story? How long will you keep doubting what's already been placed in your hands? Because every time you hesitate, every time you pull back from your calling, they win a little more. And you weren't made to live in defeat. The world doesn't need more people trying to blend into the background. It needs someone bold, someone real, someone who refuses to dim their light just to make others feel comfortable. It needs you fully, fiercely, and without apology. You've got something inside you that you're meant to share, and it's time to stop running from it. The moment you truly embrace who you are, the world will have no choice but to take notice. They can't have what you've been given, so they try to dominate. When they can't contain your fire, they look for ways to put it out. They've stolen from you, copied you, even tried to destroy you, but nothing sticks. Because no matter how much they examine you, mimic you, or try to capture your essence, they'll never be able to become you. And that truth, it drives them mad. They've known who you were from the start, maybe even before you did. That's why they moved against you early on, before you had a chance to discover your strength. They couldn't take what was divinely planted in your soul, so they took another route. They fooled you into handing it over yourself. That's their game. They don't show up with weapons anymore. They show up with distractions, with mind games, with emotional sabotage. They feed you lies to shake your confidence. They place the wrong people in your path, people who drain you, deceive you, leave you burned out. So by the time you begin to see your worth, you're already running on empty. Look through history. Every soul with great power faced betrayal, loneliness, or attack before stepping into their purpose. Jesus was betrayed by his own. Martin Luther King Jr. was silenced. Nikola Tesla's brilliance was buried. Joan of Arc was put to death for hearing the voice of God. It's not random. They don't just target the chosen. They go after them early. Because the longer you live in your truth, the harder you are to stop. They manipulate because they can't create. They deceive because they can't carry what you carry. They turn others against you because they can't take you down alone. Ask yourself, why do you keep drawing people who use you, who take and never give back? Why do they admire your light yet pull away the moment you draw a boundary? Why do they praise your strength? Yet deep down hope you stumble. It's because they sense something in you that they can't replicate. And so they twist the truth. They build illusions meant to confuse you, to make you shrink, to convince you that your uniqueness is a flaw instead of a calling. They cloud your mind with doubt, surround you with chaos, and paint your difference as a weakness. But look closely at how the world works. The system isn't built to raise the chosen, it's designed to suppress them. Schools don't teach you to think deeply, they teach you to obey. The media doesn't uplift voices that speak truth, it shuts them down. Society doesn't celebrate visionaries, it mocks them until ignoring them is no longer an option. Why? Because someone who knows their divine power cannot be controlled. And a world built on control has no room for souls who are free-rooted and unshakable. You weren't meant to fit into their mold. The moment you try, you lose the essence of who you are. And that right there is the trap. That's the message they've been feeding you all along. They've built an entire system around convincing you to surrender your strength. And the worst part is, they make it feel like it's your own idea. They whisper that your dreams are too big, too far-fetched. They make you feel like you need their nod of approval to feel like you matter. They feed you fear one spoonful at a time until you're too scared to chase the very path you were born to walk. But here's what they don't want you to see. They wouldn't put this much effort into keeping you small if you weren't powerful already. You wouldn't be drowning in distractions dealing with one toxic situation after another if you weren't a force to be reckoned with. Every betrayal, every fake friend, every delay, it's all part of a bigger plan to keep you from realizing your potential. So I'm asking you right here, right now, look at the life you're living. Trace the patterns. How many times have you handed your energy to people who never earned it? How often have you held yourself back because someone else slipped fear into your heart like a poison? And the bigger question, how much longer will you let them steer your life for you? Because here's the shift. The moment you stop letting them call the shots, everything changes. When you stop doubting yourself, stop justifying your choices, stop letting others drain you, that's when the balance of power shifts. That's when they lose, because they can't touch what's inside you. They'll never be able to tap into what flows through your soul so naturally. The moment you truly believe that you reclaim every drop of the strength they tried to steal with their lies. No more second-guessing. No more shrinking to fit into the mold they built for you. You weren't handed your gifts just to be controlled, to be silenced or dimmed. They were given to you so you could lead, disrupt the system, and rise above it all. And once you really understand that, there's nothing they can do but stand back and watch you become unstoppable. 3. The war is invisible, but the attacks are real. This battle you're in. It may not be visible, but it's no less brutal. Some of the fiercest wars aren't fought on open fields, they rage within the mind, within the soul, in spaces no one else can see. These battles are reserved for the ones who've been called, and all your life they've tried to convince you that your suffering was just misfortune, a hard season, or bad timing. But that's just another lie. The truth, you were born into a war. One crafted to keep you tired, distracted, and doubting who you really are before you even get the chance to discover it. This war isn't fought with guns or bombs. It's waged through manipulation, deception, heartbreak, and forces that work silently in the shadows. It shows up in the way people suddenly change on you, how the ones closest become your biggest obstacles, how opportunity seems to vanish just when you're about to cross the threshold. None of this is random. Every challenge, every betrayal, every dark night of the soul, these weren't coincidences. They were placed there with purpose. Because the goal isn't to destroy your body, it's to break your spirit, your heart, your faith. A chosen soul who's lost in confusion, drained of energy, and doubting their worth is as good as one who never showed up at all. Look at your life. Count the times you were knocked flat, just as you were starting to find your feet again. Think about that bone-deep exhaustion you felt, the kind that has nothing to do with how much you slept, but everything to do with your spirit being under siege. That feeling like something invisible is holding you down, tugging at your purpose, trying to keep you from rising. That's not just bad luck. That's the war. And the scariest part is sometimes the enemy isn't out there. Sometimes it's the voice in your head whispering that you're not enough. Sometimes it's the people you love the most unknowingly being used to plant seeds of doubt in your heart. Sometimes it's the entire world screaming that your calling doesn't matter. Your gifts are pointless, your purpose is fantasy. But don't mistake this for chance. This is strategy. They'll use the people you trust because they know betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from someone who once held your hand. They'll attack your money because if you're stuck in survival mode, you won't have the strength to chase your destiny. They'll flood your life with toxic relationships because they know the right distraction at the right time can stop you completely. Take a look at the stories of those who carried power in their souls. How many of them had to walk through loneliness, grief, and betrayal? Before they stepped into their purpose, David was hunted before he wore a crown. Job was stripped of everything to test his trust in the divine. Even Jesus was denied by the ones who claimed to love him most, and only then did he fulfill his mission. So tell me, why would it be any different for you? The more powerful your spirit, the fiercer the assault. The adversary doesn't bother with those who pose no threat. That's why the ones who are chosen often endure trials that most people can't begin to fathom. But here's what catches them off guard. You keep going. Every time they thought they shattered you, you returned more resilient. Every moment that should have broken you became another chapter in your survival story. And that's what unnerves them the most. Because nothing shakes them more than a chosen soul who refuses to bow. So now what? Will you keep letting invisible forces wear you down, feed your doubts, convince you that you're all alone in this? Or will you recognize this for what it truly is? A battle, and realize you were born to overcome it. Everything changes the second you stop seeing yourself as a casualty and begin living like a conqueror. When you stop interpreting your pain as punishment and begin viewing it as confirmation of your calling, you become a force no one can stop. And that, more than anything, is what they fear. 4. You feel alone because you were set apart. It exists because you were never made to blend in. Eagles don't travel in flocks. The higher they fly, the more solitary their path becomes. You've sensed it your entire life, that quiet, persistent feeling of being different, of not fitting in even when surrounded by others. You've tried to silence it, to force yourself into roles that never quite suited you. But no matter what, you always found yourself standing apart. That's not a coincidence. It's the cost of rising above. The world doesn't reward those who are called, it isolates them. It leads them into deserts, into seasons of silence, into battles that feel too heavy to bear alone. Because as you ascend, fewer and fewer can keep pace. Look back for a moment. Where are the ones who began the journey with you? The friends from childhood who swore they'd never leave. The relationships that felt unbreakable. Most of them are gone. Some drifted away. Some turned their backs. Some left you wondering what you did to drive them off. But here's the truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You were simply set apart. The chosen are never allowed to remain ordinary. They aren't given the luxury of blending in, of being understood by the masses, of strolling down the easy road. If you felt alone, it's because your path was never meant to be crowded. Think about the world changers, the visionaries, the leaders who shaped history. Did any of them have it easy? Were they always surrounded by support? Not at all. They were mocked, betrayed, sent to walk alone before their destiny revealed itself. Moses led a nation, but first wandered the wilderness in isolation. Jesus healed the broken, but was denied by those closest to him. Malcolm X fought for justice, but stood alone before his voice was finally heard. Notice the pattern. You're not isolated because you've been overlooked. You're walking alone because you've been summoned. People don't disappear from your life because you're lacking something. They leave because your ascent demands it. Not everyone can carry the weight of your calling. Not everyone can handle the fire that fuels your mission. Some will fear it, others will envy it, and some will do whatever they can to drag you back to the ground because your rise unsettles their comfort. And yes, I know it hurts. There were moments when you just wanted anyone to see you, to stand beside you, to walk this uphill road with you. But every time you thought you found that companion, they vanished or showed you they were never meant to stay. That wasn't abandonment. That was protection. The chosen cannot afford to be surrounded by the wrong people. You were separated not to suffer, but to be shaped. The solitude isn't a punishment, it's part of the process. It's where you're tested, refined, and built into the person your purpose requires you to be. Because when your time comes, you'll need to be solid, unshakable, untouchable. So let me ask you, are you still mourning those who walked away? Or are you ready to accept that you were never meant to stay where they stopped? Because here's the truth. The right people will show up. The ones who see what you see, who carry the same fire, who are pursuing their own path of greatness. But you won't find them in places you've already outgrown. They're waiting for you at the next level, and until you reach it, embrace the quiet. It's not a curse. It's your preparation. 5. The world of distraction. The war for your mind. If they can't destroy you, they'll divert you. If they can't break your will, they'll lull it to sleep with amusement. Today's battles don't involve shackles or swords. They're waged through glowing screens, glittering lies, and a flood of noise that numbs the soul. You don't have to be locked up to be kept in chains. As long as you're distracted, you're no threat. They don't need to quiet your voice if they can drown it out with endless scrolling, empty trends, and mindless consumption. Look around. Every direction you turn, something's flashing to grab your attention, pulling you away from your strength. Social media clutters your thoughts with chaos. Reality shows make foolishness look like fame. The news cycles feed fear like it's breakfast. Music seeps into your subconscious with poison wrapped in a beat. None of this is accidental. It's a blueprint. They don't want you to reflect. They don't want you to dig deeper. They surely don't want you waking up. Because once someone chosen knows who they are, they're uncontrollable. Every figure who ever challenged the system was first turned into a punchline. Prophets were laughed at. Fighters were turned into spectacles. Those who carried truth were ridiculed until their voices became too powerful to ignore. Look at the distortion. Wisdom is mocked, ignorance praised. Spiritual depth is laughed at, while shallow living is applauded. The truth is buried while lies blaze through the airwaves. They've trained you to laugh at what you should be pondering. They've made you crave what drains your spirit. And all of it carefully arranged to keep the awakened ones too distracted to realize they're being played. Now take a moment. Count the hours you've poured into chasing mirages. Think of the days spent soaking in nothing. Recall the moments your mission sat on hold, not because you couldn't, but because you were too distracted to begin. This isn't some random side effect. It's the plan. The longer your eyes are off your purpose, the more they can steal from you your time, your vision, your fire. Every second wasted on shallow content is a second you could have spent sharpening your edge, unlocking your gifts, stepping into your divine task. They know that. That's why they drown your mind in celebrity drama scandals and empty thrills. They want you to watch, not build. To absorb, not create. To react, not lead. But the moment you pull the plug on those distractions, something shifts. You begin to see clearly. You stop feeding the beast. You walk away from what was never meant to hold you. And that's when your power becomes undeniable. So pause and ask, who's steering your thoughts? Is it truly you, or the flood of noise they serve you every single day? Because the second you reclaim your focus, the entire game flips. And trust me, they know it. 6. Doubt, the oldest weapon in the book. They don't need to put your body in chains if they can trap your mind. They don't need to confront you if they can get you to sabotage yourself. They don't need to strip your strength if they can convince you it was never there to begin with. If they can fill your mind with hesitation, they don't have to lift a finger. Doubt is their favorite weapon, and it's been in play since the moment you arrived on this earth. From your first breath, they planted whispers in your mind. You were surrounded by people who, knowingly or not, were trained to keep you small. Be realistic. Don't dream too big. Play it safe. That was the song you heard growing up. They built a world that punishes the different shames, the bold, and discourages faith. A system where fitting in is safer than standing out. They programmed hesitation into your soul before you ever had a shot at confidence. Because once you start doubting yourself, they don't need to stop you. You'll do it on your own. Now think back. How many doors stayed closed because you weren't sure you could open them? How many times did you stay silent when your voice was needed? How often did you turn away from your gut because someone else said you were wrong? That was always part of the plan. Because here's the truth, the enemy only fights what scares him. If you weren't powerful, if your presence didn't threaten the system, they wouldn't waste energy trying to break you. But they did. And that says everything. Every soul with power has faced this attack. They were dismissed as crazy before they were called genius, laughed at before they were listened to, rejected before they were revered. Nikola Tesla mocked until his visions changed everything. Malcolm X demonized until his voice became a thunder that never dies. Jesus ridiculed until every prophecy was fulfilled. There's a pattern here clear as day. You're doubted not because you're weak, but because you hold a strength they can't contain. They chip away at your confidence because if you ever fully embraced who you are, Their grip on you would vanish. So here's the real question. How long will you let them win? How much longer will you let doubt sit in the driver's seat, keeping you from walking into the life that was always yours? How many more internal battles will you keep fighting, battles that were never yours to carry? The moment you hush that inner voice of doubt, everything begins to change. The fire they tried to bury inside you catches light. The dreams they tried to smother breathe again. The chains they wrapped around your thinking begin to crumble, and that's what shakes them to their core. And now comes the part you were always meant for. 8. The rising. No more waiting in the wings. Lions don't ask permission to roar, and those who are called don't wait for the world's blessing to take their place. Enough with the hesitation. Enough with shrinking into corners, waiting for a perfect moment that will never come. The time is now. It has always been now. For far too long, you've been sitting back waiting for a signal, for the pain to pass, for someone to finally see what you carry. But here's the truth. No one's riding in to rescue you. No one's going to deliver your power to your front door. Because the chosen don't plead. They declare. You've been fed the lie that you need to feel ready before stepping into your purpose. But the greatest warriors never feel ready when they walk into battle, they just walk in. The leaders who shape history didn't wait for applause. They stood up and took their place. And now it's your turn, your energy. It's the most powerful thing you possess. But not everyone deserves to share in it. Some people show up to steal. Some drain you until there's nothing left. Only a rare few actually come to build with you. That's exactly why your energy draws so much attention. They want to take it, use it, control it, because even when you don't recognize your own strength, they do. You change the atmosphere just by walking into a room. Your presence speaks before you ever open your mouth, and people notice. That's why manipulators, energy thieves, and users seem to circle around you. They're not showing up to give anything, they're here to take. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like someone just pulled the plug on your spirit? Felt like no matter how much love or support you offer, certain people always leave you feeling emptied out and forgotten. That's not random. That's a direct hit to your energy. Because what you carry is rare. It's potent. It pulls people in. And those who lack their own power will do whatever they can to feed off yours. They'll fake being needy just to keep you close. They'll wear the mask of friendship while siphoning your strength. They'll mimic loyalty, affection, and support. But the moment you're drained dry, they'll vanish without a second thought. And unless you learn to see these patterns, they'll just keep repeating. You've got to guard your energy like your very life is tied to it, because it is. Not everyone is meant to have access to you. Not everyone should be allowed into your space. Your presence is sacred, and the moment you start treating it that way, things begin to shift. The distractions fade. The lies lose their grip. The wrong people fall away, and the right ones start appearing. Because here's the truth. You attract what you allow. Keep giving your light to those who only take, and you'll keep drawing in more of the same. But the minute you start protecting your spirit, start saying no to what drains you, you create space for true connection, for real mutual support, for the kind of relationships that feed your soul instead of feeding off it. Energy doesn't lie. Pay attention to who leaves you feeling weak. Pay attention to who makes you feel strong. The ones who are meant to stay in your life will never make you question your worth. They won't leave you doubting your purpose. They won't drain you to feel full. Instead, they'll fill your spirit. They'll lift your vision. They'll walk beside you and help you grow. So ask yourself, who's been getting your energy? Are they pouring into your life or just taking from it? Are they lifting your spirit or quietly consuming it? Because if you don't choose to take charge of your energy, someone else will. And once they do, you'll wake up one day exhausted, unsure why you feel empty, confused about why nothing ever seems to move forward. Protect your energy, stand in your power, and watch everything begin to change. 9. Stay ready, because they're coming. They're coming for you. Not maybe, not someday. They will come. The moment you start standing in your truth, stepping into your strength, shedding the doubts, and walking in your purpose, they'll feel it, and they won't like it. The world doesn't sit still when someone chosen begins to awaken. As soon as you shake off the fog of fear, as soon as you stop questioning your worth and begin moving like you were made for something more, they'll notice. And that's when the resistance starts. Old faces you haven't seen in years will suddenly reappear. But not out of love. They sense your rise and they want to stay close to the fire. The ones who left you behind will act like they've been cheering you on all along. Be watchful. Not everyone clapping is on your side. Some just want to ride your light because they see it shining. And then come the manipulators. They may wear different masks, speak sweet words, but they all come with the same aim: to bring you back down, to weaken your resolve, to shrink you into who you used to be. They'll say you've changed, that you're cold now, that you're making it all about you. It's a trick, because your growth threatens their grip. They can't use you anymore, and that scares them. That's when the subtle attacks begin. They'll try to stir your guilt, twist your words, or turn others against you. If they can't keep you in chains, they'll try to make sure no one else sees your freedom either. But here's what they don't realize. You're not that same person anymore. You don't bend the way you used to. You've come too far, seen too much, walked through too much fire to go back now. And that's what rattles them most. You're awake now, and once you've woken up, there's no going back to sleep. Here's the truth. Don't waste your breath explaining yourself to people who never wanted to understand in the first place. A lion doesn't turn to explain itself to the sheep. Because some people will always long for the version of you they could manipulate, drain, or control. But that version of you, that one's gone. You buried that version with every sleepless night and every silent prayer. So when they show up with smiles or guilt or old memories, stand firm. Don't let longing for the past drag you into yesterday. Don't let guilt dilute your power. You've climbed too high, fought too hard, healed too much to fall back into the same old patterns. They'll test you. They'll try to distract you. Be ready. Because the only thing more terrifying to them than your rising is the fact that they can't stop it. 10. The final message. Step into why you're here. This is it. Your moment. The one you've been shaped by pain and perseverance to reach. You weren't just thrown into this life. You were sent. You didn't survive all that you have for nothing. Everything that broke your heart, that tested your limits, that left you crying out in the dark, it was all leading here. To this crossroads. To this choice. Will you rise or waste the gift you've been given? This isn't some random twist of fate. You're hearing this now because you were meant to. Every step, every scar, every setback was preparing you for this. You've been betrayed, left behind, pushed so close to the edge, you weren't sure you'd come back. But you did. And that alone speaks volumes. You weren't meant to live in the shadows. You weren't meant to keep playing small. You weren't made to stay afraid. You were built to rise. But hear this loud and clear, no one's going to do it for you. The waiting time is over. You've hesitated long enough. You've let fear and doubt and guilt hold you back long enough. Now the responsibility's on your shoulders. You've seen too much, grown too much, know too much to keep pretending you don't understand what's happening. Those battles weren't punishment. They were preparation. The universe, or whatever name you give to the divine, was shaping you, making sure you were ready. And if you're still standing, still breathing, still seeking, you are ready. But knowing isn't enough. Just hearing this message isn't enough. You've got to act. You've got to move. Because the only weapon the enemy ever really had against you was your own hesitation. Every time you held yourself back. Every time you said, maybe tomorrow. Every time you let fear talk louder than faith, that's when they won. But no more. Now you know the truth. And with that truth, the last of your excuses fall away. So, here it is. The choice: rise or go back to sleep. Become what you were born to be, or stay where it's comfortable, where others can keep you small. Step into your calling or let it die on the vine. Deep down, you already know what you were made for. You can feel it in your bones, stirring in your spirit. The waiting season is over. This is your final message. What are you going to do with it? So to all of you who are called the ones who feel something greater burning inside, this is the moment of truth. No more delays. No more second guessing. Step into your power and watch the world around you shift. You were placed here for a reason. And yes, they fear you, because they recognize your strength even when you don't. So rise and act like it. This calling isn't just about you or me. It's about awakening others like you before time runs out. If this message stirred something in you, Help share it. Like, subscribe, and spread it to the ones who need to hear it most. Together, we rise.